Thank you for coming to this event. This is the talk by Rajiv Malhotra on the books he has authored and co-authored. With us, we have Vijaya Viswanathan, who Rajiv Malhotra ji will be in conversation. Vijaya ji has co-authored books like The Battle for IITs and Varna Jati, Caste with Rajiv ji. We have Rajiv ji with us. Rajiv Malhotra is a researcher in the fields of civilizational studies, world religions, and cross-culture encounters. He is the founder of the non-profit Infinity Foundation and has authored best-selling books like Snakes in the Ganga. I would just take about 40 seconds to just name all the books that he'll be talking about. He has authored and co-authored the books like The Battle for Sanskrit and non-translatables, Breaking India, Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Power, The Power of Future Machines, Academic Hindu Phobia, Being Different, The Battle for IITs, Varn Jati Caste, Indra's Net, and Snakes in the Ganga. Over to you, Rajiv ji and Vijaya ji.
Namaste and thank you for having this event. So I've been asked in 30 minutes to give you an overview of about 12, 13 books over a period of 15, 20 years. And I don't know how to do that, but I'll do my best. I'll just tell you a little bit about each book. So without much ado, I'll just get started. Breaking India was the first that became very successful. And Breaking India is a book which says that there are foreign forces and Indian forces together working on creating caste divide in India and Aryan Dravidian divide in India. There are Christian missionaries involved. There are Maoists involved. So there are many kinds of people involved in creating this divisiveness within India. And this became a very big success because people learned for the first time that this is not something that's happening on its own. And these things are related to each other. They're correlated. They're not spontaneous. So this is what got the whole, the whole awakening started. A lot of people started video channels, started writing their own books. One of the concrete outcomes of this was people started lobbying to the government that the FCRA, which is used by these NGOs to bring foreign money and create mischief, that FCRA should be closely monitored. So FCRA laws were changed as a result of this because this book started a lot of activism and FCRA laws were changed. You have a comment or?
So, Rajiv ji, with Breaking India 1.0 to this final destination now, what do you think are the foundational blocks that Breaking India did that has carried on this kind of work in the future? I mean, from that time.
So
onwards.
it exposed the role of Marxists, the role of Christian missionaries, the role of our own people fighting for caste quotas and fighting each other internally, and how people in other countries have taken advantage of this. How people are spending money in order to break up India because they know that Indians are fighting each other. That's how the British East India Company also operated. They would get communities to fight each other, and Indians were very happy to do that. So we have paid the price once, and this says that we might pay the price again. So this is a book that came a few months later called Being Different. It's my all-time favorite. This is a book where people ask the question, well, you're worrying about Breaking India, but what's so special about India? Why? What happens? What would go wrong if we all become part of different countries? If we become part of Pakistan or China or USA or whatever, how would it be any worse? So I wanted to show what is distinct about Indian civilization, and this has got several chapters, each on a major area of difference between Western civilization and Indian civilization. So this will tell you who we are. हम कौन हैं? हमारे में क्या खासियत है? हम क्यों क्या what is different? हम हमारे में क्या खूबी है जो बाकियों में नहीं है? Not chauvinistic, not trying to be superior, but how we are different from other people. This is very important for people to know our identity.
I also think this is a great book for youngsters who've grown up without any kind of cultural background. it sort of tells you the Indian drishti. Like Rajiv ji said, how we are different, but it also says how do we look at the world differently? How do we see the world in our own special way, which has a dharmic foundation. So it's a very important book for youngsters who've grown up without any cultural background, whose families or school systems have not exposed them to these sorts of critical analysis of what makes the Indian drishti so different. So it's a very good book, for everybody, especially youngsters.
So this one, Indira's Net, I wrote because people claim there is no such thing as a unified Hindu thought. There is no Hindu thought until British came and unified it. There was no, we have so many different sects and so many rituals and so many gods and so many gurus and so many, so many different kinds of things within Hinduism, what unifies us. So I wanted to show what is the unity, the unifying architecture, a common architecture which is an open architecture, and whether you look in one sampradaya or one particular darshan or another, whatever branch or part of the dharma you look at, there is an underlying unity. It's not an easy thing, it's not visible because what you see seems like a lot of differences. But underneath the differences are unifying. And so this is the book which is kind of it shows how people have attacked the unity of Indian thought and Hindu thought, and why they are wrong and what is my response. So this argues against those who claim that there has never been a unified Hindu thought.
I think this is also another book which Indra's Net gives you a look at a meta level and again deepens your understanding of the Bharatiya Drishti. It talks about the architecture, how it's amazing how the rishis have thought through the kinds of social structures, modes of worship, things like that, which has given us this architecture where we can all be so diverse and yet be connected in a very integral way. So,
In fact, it also unifies Buddhism.
right.
Up to Buddhism is different in some ways, but there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap with the Jains, the Sikhs, the Buddhists, Hindus. So it shows you where are we overlapping. Of course, there are differences also, but we're overlapping also. That it also shows.
Yeah. So it's again a deeper look into understanding our drishti.
So this one, Academic Hindu Phobia, is a collection of articles which I wrote long ago, and a few other people also wrote. And basically, what it says is how the academic world in the United States and Britain and various places has tried to create a kind of a negative anti-Hindu discourse. How they are making fun of our deities, they're making fun of our gurus, they're making fun of our society, they're claiming there is nothing philosophical, nothing useful, there's only this caste system, and these Hindus are abusing their women, and they're worshipping a monkey, and they're worshipping an elephant. These kind of things, and some very obscene things have also come out, very vulgar things have come out from the Western Academy. So here, like in all my books, when I'm criticizing, I don't criticize minor players. I don't want to criticize small-time people. I'm criticizing the leaders of this whole intellectual movement, the people who are world famous, the people who are sitting in Ivy Leagues, who have got huge position. And taking them on is not easy. And when I take on such people, people attack me. I have been attacked and again attacked and again attacked for the last 30 years. But that is part of what I have to do, because somebody has to stand up and say all this. It's not written with disrespect. It's written very academically, lot of data to show that many people are biased, they are manipulating, and they are creating some bhed and some inferiority complex among young Indian students, not only in the Western world but in India. All these, their books are read in India. Their books are being read in India, and I'm criticizing what all is wrong with them. So this started a big battle. These articles written from the year 2001, 2002 onwards, which are summarized here, these articles created a huge fight because these scholars are not used to being criticized. Nobody had criticized them before. They were just whatever. They were like God, some big shot. Nobody can criticize them, and I'm the first one who took them on. After that, so many of our people started writing books against them. So many of the people that you find today on video channels and authors learnt the problems that I had initiated the discussion about in this book.
I should also say, I learned about Rajiv Ji's articles. I was also in the US from his very insightful articles in the Suleka those days. And that's how I came to know this person by the name of Rajiv Malhotra, who had taken on very big people in Western academia, whom many people revered just the institution, like the University of Chicago and places like that, and it was the first sort of insightful, analytical attack with no ad hominem sort of references. It was purely a battle of ideas, and for the first time, I remember thinking that I think India has finally come of age and where we are responding in a correct way to these kinds of attacks on Hinduism and Indology. So I remember this very, very distinctly.
This one, Battle for Sanskrit, is a book I wrote because Shangeri Mutt, which, as you know, is one of the most sacred organizations, very old organization in the Hindu Dharma, one of the oldest. Shingeri Mutt signed an MOU to turn over the legacy of Adi Shankara to Columbia University. And it was going to be under the chairmanship of Sheldon Pollock, a very famous Sanskrit scholar, probably the most widely read, famous Sanskrit scholar in the Western world. And they were going to turn over everything to him. They signed an MOU, and a lot of Indian millionaires, multimillionaires gave a lot of money to set up these chairs in the US, thinking that they're promoting our culture. But actually, he is full of nonsense, he's full of biases, distortions. So I went and talked to the Shankaracharya of Shingeri, saying that I'm writing a rebuttal to this guy's work. He has written about 20, 30 books, huge books. So I wanted to give my response, and the Shankaracharya said yes, he will read it. So I wrote this book, and it shows that he is basically a Marxist looking at Sanskrit as a source of human rights problem, Sanskrit as a caste problem, as a minority issue, that Sanskrit is abusing minorities, abusing women. He criticizes the Ramayana as something casteist and gender biased. So he's taking all the different shastras and Sanskrit grammar. Panini's grammar is accused of having biases inside it and being socially abusive. So after this book came out, the Shingeri Shankaracharya cancelled that MOU, and that Columbia University chair, which was going to happen and destroy our civilization, never happened. So that is a book. This is a book which produced a very clear and very sharp impact.
This book also sort of revealed some fantastic insights into how social sciences in the Western academia operates. In fact, to go through Pollock's work is no mean task. The language is so complicated. Simple concepts are made highly complicated, and it's really dense, very difficult to understand. So Rajiv ji took the effort of going through all of that and not only responding, but made like Cliff's Notes versions, like simple versions of this book and many other books. And we actually had a Swadeshi Indology conference. We trained a bunch of scholars on Pollock's work, and they all wrote rebuttals to Pollock. So it just did not stop with Rajiv Ji's work. It went on to a next generation of scholars that we trained on this kind of work, and it's really complicated language and ideas, although they are basically gobbledygook if you look at it from a STEM perspective. But to understand and respond in an academic fashion takes a lot of effort. So proud to say we had Swadeshi Indology conferences based on this.
So this is called Sanskrit non-translatables, which means there are words in Sanskrit that cannot be translated. I mean, you cannot translate Shakti as energy, because energy is not intelligent. Energy is not conscious. But Shakti is not only energy, it's also intelligent, it's also conscious. So it is energy, intelligence, consciousness, which is not the same thing as just energy. Similarly, pran is not just breath. Pran is not just breath. Pran is also living. Breath is just mechanical. You can have a machine that is breathing in and out. So, like this, there are a lot of Sanskrit words which cannot be translated, should not be translated. You know, Atman is not soul, and Dharma is not religion. So, you see, the idea being that, first of all, I'm explaining the philosophical reason Sanskrit is non-translatable. Philosophical reason, besides giving examples. And all kind of examples where if you read any example, we give 54 examples, which is half of 108. We'll do another 54 later. So each one of these examples is a very detailed insight into our tradition using one word. So if you want to understand the word Shakti, or if you want to understand the word Pran, and you read this 5-10 pages, whatever, you will get a philosophical insight into the entire tradition. Not just one word, but through that one word you will understand how our tradition works and why it's something, these ideas are not found in the English language.
Also, there are specific words, and you have paryaya padas, you have synonyms for some words. For example, you have hasta, which is hand, you have kara, you have pani. Pani, for example, is from pa, which is to protect, because the hand is the only thing that protects. And therefore, you have pani grahanam in marriage. Similarly, when you say kara, it is about the doing with karma attached to it. Yeah, that's why you say karagre vasate Lakshmi, karamadhye Saraswati. So these sorts of specific words which are used in a specific context. Sanskrit is full of that, and you can't just translate kara and pani and hasta as hand, and that's too simplistic, and a lot of meaning and the metaphysical ideas are lost. So this book is a step in that direction to explain these things. We also plan to have a Swadeshi Indology conference that will bring out more authors, to bring out the problems of non-translatables in various fields like yoga, Ayurveda, and things like that.
And another book which I don't have a sample of is a book called 10 Heads of Ravana. And I'm particularly proud of that because it contains 10 essays written by our young team. We are mentoring a young team, and they've spent the last 4 or 5 years, each of them writing an article on one head of Ravana, and I put it together, wrote an introduction. I wish we had a sample. The people who organized this, if you can bring me your sample, I will be delighted to show it to the public because I think they need to see this. Thank you very much. So this is 10 heads of Ravan. Now the 10 heads are people who are viciously against Hindu Dharma. Like Ravan was against. So now we are saying Ravan has been reincarnated, and these are the 10 intellectual personalities of Ravan. So we have people like Ramachandra Guha and Romila Thapar and Devdutt Patnaik and Shashi Tharoor. We have Westerners like Bendy Doniger and Sheldon Pollock and Audrey Truskay and so on. So we have several Indians and Westerners. They are the persona, and there's nothing ad hominem. We are not attacking them personally. We are not saying they're bad people. We are not saying that there is anything. Ravana was a Pandit. He was very well educated. He was a very intelligent man. These are all, we credit them as very intelligent people, very hardworking people, good scholars. But we feel that at the end of the day, their work harms and hurts the sentiments of our community. So we're giving a response. And the reason this response is justified in a very academic way and a respectful way is that nobody has taken them on before. So, you cannot just have a whole career lasting decades and decades and spewing whatever you want to about a community and nobody give a response. Somebody has to give a response. So we have 10 of these people, each with a response that we've given. We've invited them for discussion. When the book was launched, we invited all 10 of them. Please come and we will present our findings about your work. You can give a response. It will be neutral and everybody will get to hear and make up their own mind. Not one of them showed up. So, we've done our best to create a dialogue, open a communication channel with people that we feel are not favorable to our tradition. And it's for them to take this up as an opportunity to have a mutual dialogue. No personal insults here. Not a single line. which would be something kind of insulting or demeaning on a personal level. We are just talking about their work and not talking about them personally. This is important to note.
I'd like to just add that this is a great milestone because we just launched this book a few days ago, and the response has been tremendous. It's also good for young people who who want to know the other side, because these people are featured in the mainstream media, and people just buy whatever they say, in the sense, sign up to their ideas. And here is a nice way to to sort of see the rejoinder, and again, and the attacks against Hinduism India, and see the rejoinder, what's our side of the story. So it's a very good book.
This came out a couple years ago on artificial intelligence and the future of power. When I came to this country as a grad student about 52 years ago, in computer science, my topic was artificial intelligence. I studied artificial intelligence. I worked in the tech industry for half my life, and then I quit and started studying humanities, social sciences about India, our tradition, history, religions, faith, philosophy, all of that. So I went from hard sciences to social sciences on my own. But this is the early part of my career. So now what I'm doing is taking the artificial intelligence, not writing a book on the technology, but on the social implications, the political implications, policy implications, human rights implications. So I talk about 5 battlegrounds. The first one is economy, industry, education, and jobs. Second one is geopolitics and military, the China, India, US triangle. The third one is called the moronization of the masses, which means the masses are being psychologically dumbed down, becoming more and more dependent on AI algorithms and so on. So the battleground is a psychological battleground of us versus the machines. Then there is a fourth one called the loss of selfhood, which means the loss of emotions and artificial gratification through these algorithms and through all this tech. And the fifth one is questioning what is the future of the Indian Rashtra, India as a country, India as a Rashtra. What is the future in light of artificial intelligence? And it's a very provocative challenge to the Indian planners about the future of our Rashtra in light of this technology, because we are at least 10 years behind the US and China.
I think this book talks about what is the need of the hour for India. A lot of young people should read this because their future is essentially at stake. I've also like to say that I think the government is taking note that Rajiv ji has been talking to some officials way up in the ministries and the ministers themselves. So hopefully we will get a plan soon. Taking advice from what Rajiv ji has to say, and I'm hopeful. But young people over here, I think, need to understand what their future holds for them.
So this one just came out today. We launched it. The Power of Future Machines is a sequel on artificial intelligence. The difference is this is written by other people. I've written an introduction and we are promoting it. But a lot of people who read the first book have a lot of comments. So there's an article by Lieutenant General about AI in the military. There are articles on AI in metaphysics. There are articles on geopolitics. There's somebody in Europe, a European lady, she from Austria. She's written an article on the artificial intelligence and how it will shape the balance of power in the world. So there are many different authors who come from different specializations, and each has written an article in their own domain, how artificial intelligence will affect them. And the idea is that when we write a book, we start it, then we get other authors to take it forward in their own name. And these articles are in their own name.
So as you can see, there's a common thread in some of these later books, and that is that we all knew Rajiv ji started off as a one-man army some decades ago, and over these decades he's sort of built up his own army of young scholars with diverse backgrounds. We have astrophysicists, we have computer scientists, we have engineers, we have all kinds of people who have joined this mission. and are actually producing output. They're not only training themselves, but also producing output for other people to learn. And as you can see, we are slowly beginning to have our own school of thought, which is in the form of rejoinders to Western universalism, but also building our own drishti.
So this is one of the latest books, and I want Vijaya to explain it. She's my co-author in this. We worked together on this, called Snakes in the Ganga. Don't let the giant size, scare you, because all what you need to read is chapter 1, which is 50 pages, and then every chapter has a one-page overview, one-page summary in the beginning. So if you read chapter 1 and then the summaries of all the chapters, you will get a very good idea of the whole book. The rest of the book, most of these pages is backup evidence, because what we are writing about is very strong, very serious issues, and therefore we need to prove everything, and we have given all the backup. So maybe you want to explain. I'll hold it. You explain it.
So, Snakes in the Ganga is a book that we released a few months ago. It talks about some of the theories that emanate out of Harvard University in the US, which is funded by a lot of Indian billionaires. So we bring out that as well. The social theories like critical race theory are being mapped onto India recklessly as critical caste theory. And this is without any context. The race issues of the US are being mapped as caste issues in India. And the consequences of this is devastating for India, and that's why we call it Breaking India 2.0 as a sequel to the Breaking India 1.0, because the players have changed, the funding has changed, the targets have changed, and there is a force multiplier also. So we have big universities like Harvard University is producing this venom and spreading it to India. And in India, we show what is Ashoka University doing, what is Kriya University doing, what is Godrej Culture Labs doing. So this is the scholarship. So people always ask, so what if there are some social scientists doing something in their ivory towers, how does it matter? So this book also shows you, with a lot of evidence, that how social sciences in the West being mapped onto India has devastating consequences on the ground. It affects every one of us as we go into the workplace, as we send our children to school and colleges, as we make policy in the government. So this is a very interesting book for everyone to know, because it talks about the issues of our times and where all this emanates. Yeah. So with that, Rajiv, you have to.
So I would say that this book gives you at one level what is the philosophical theory that is this new Breaking India theory, and that philosophical theory, how it starts in Marxism, then it becomes Marxism 2.0, the cultural Marxism, then it becomes critical race theory, then it becomes critical caste theory, and then it's applied to Indians living in the United States, and lawsuits have been filed against them, accusing them of all sorts of things. And then those companies in Silicon Valley and elsewhere are being forced to implement new policies against Indians in particular. These are not policies against everybody, but this is discriminatory policies against Indian tech workers there. And then some of these policies, once enacted in Silicon Valley, find their way to India. So this is all going on, and the role of Indian billionaires, as Vijaya mentioned, in doing all these things, and how the use of data gathering, data mining, a whole lot of these Western enterprises from France, from United States, are not only academic but also businesses are data mining and becoming a Breaking India force also. This is a grand sweep of a whole lot of problems. The difference between the Breaking India 1.0, which is the first book I mentioned, and this Breaking India 2.0 is that Breaking India 1.0 was targeting the grassroots of India. It was targeting the poor people in the villages. They were uneducated, poor, and it was trying to convert them and use their poverty. It was not targeting elites. It was not. Harvard is not known by the poor people, so Harvard would be a wrong platform to attack, villages. That was done through churches and through Maoists and NGOs. But Breaking India 2.0 is targeting elitists. It is targeting the kids of big shots, billionaires, big rich people, It's targeting Niti Aayog, government type of think tanks. So it's a top-down invasion and top-down colonization of India happening through artificial intelligence and big data, and also through new theories and social media, which India needs to be careful about. So then, based on this, we came up with two more books based on these big snakes in the Ganga. Why don't you talk about this? Is called The Battle for IITs.
So the battle for IITs, we mention in this, we bring it out in the Snakes in the Ganga, but we had so much more research, and we wanted to bring out a book specifically, addressing the IIT issue. So it talks about, it gives a bit of background, which is not there in Snakes in the Ganga, as far as how the French Ministry of External Affairs is interested in studying engineering education in India through social sciences. So one would wonder, why is the French Ministry of External Affairs so interested in studying India's engineering education? Yeah, so this is a national security issue. Now it moves on to how they bring in again French Marxist theories on culture as capital, and Pierre Bourdieu's theory on culture as capital, again map it onto India and say caste is a form of capital, and how the IIT is a mechanism that converts capital to merit. So it's an attack on meritocracy, and the IITs symbolize the highest level of excellence and merit in India. So the IITs is the case study for the Western scholars to attack. So again, Harvard pounces in and takes this scholarship that has been developed by and funded by the French in India, and takes it to another level by applying critical race theory onto that, and says that the IITs essentially are a casteist organization. They are converting caste, which is a capital, into merit, and the IITians may take this merit overseas and then become casteless somehow. So this has impact on all stakeholders of IIT. Professors of IIT, students who want to get into the IITs, the alumni of IITs, because again, this plagues them in their work area. They now, in America, you have caste as a protected category. Seattle, the city of Seattle, very recently, I think 2 weeks ago, passed an ordinance saying that caste would be a protected category, and any kind of discrimination based on caste would be a violation with severe consequences. So, and all it takes is for somebody to say they were hurt, and the perpetrator did it because of upper caste privilege. So the ideas of critical race theory is being applied again as critical caste theory, and you see the consequences are devastating. America's problems have become India's problems. So that's what this book is about.
And then the final one is this one, Varna, Jati, Caste. So I'll hold it. Why don't you tell us about this book?
So again, all the social scientists essentially use caste as a weapon to attack India. Now, it was about time that we came up with a book which serves as a primer or a toolkit for people who want to understand the differences between Varna, Jati, caste, how these are conflated, and how caste is weaponized and used against us. So we provide some rejoinders. We bust some of the myths about caste that that has come from the West. We also, in the beginning, give an introduction to the Vedic social structure, because one has to, after all, wonder, how did India become so diverse? Diverse in culture, language, eating habits, clothing, modes of worship. How did this all magically happen? It happened because of a very rich and well thought out social structure, of which is just one aspect. There is Varna, there's ashrama, and there's an entire social infrastructure which actually produced this diversity. So maybe we have to turn back and look and say, and everybody's talking about diversity today, but nowhere in the world can you find diversity as you find in India. So we actually go back and see that here is a system, a social order that produced this kind of diversity that everybody is clamoring for, and yet unable to produce. You know, the Western homogeneity is a sham. Essentially everybody is just of different color, but they have conformity in thinking. So that's not real diversity. So we sort of bring that as an introduction, and then we go on to busting the myths of caste.
So just to be clear, we are against all forms of discrimination, be it race, be it caste, be it social strata, be it language, be it gender, sexual orientation. We are against all that. That we make clear throughout. Now the question is, how do you diagnose these problems? The problems, it's like you go to a doctor and the doctor says, yes, you have this illness, but I want to diagnose it for my way. And another doctor will take the same data, the same patient, and he will diagnose it differently. So we disagree on the diagnosis, not on the fact that there is a disease, not on the fact that there is oppression. There are people who are prejudiced, and this should be corrected. We're not questioning that. But we feel that if you have a bad diagnosis, you'll have a bad treatment. So this is a theory of how the Varna Jati emerged in the early days, in the early centuries and millennia, how later on it got collapsed into caste, which is a more recent phenomenon, why it happened, how it happened, what issues it created, how that further got sort of downgraded in terms of the society got downgraded, some communities got downgraded, and people started taking advantage of these things. So these, we look at the historical journey of Indian social structure. That's really what it is. How initially it's Varna, then it becomes Jati, and then in recent centuries it becomes caste. And once you diagnose it correctly, you can pinpoint where to attack it, where you don't want to tamper with it, and so that's what this book is trying to achieve. So we've tried our best to give you a quick rundown of 12, 13 books that I've been involved in, I've been writing. I plan on writing another 20. I have to finish 20 more books. I'm 72 years old, but before I'm gone, I have to produce 20 more books, which I've started. I've done the research. Most of them I've written the first draft. I've been working on these in parallel for a long time. So I want to crank out 2 or 3 every year. That's my plan. And so here we are. Thank you all for listening, and I'll be happy if you to take any questions from the audience. If we have a mic, then the mic can be handed to whoever raised their hand. We'll take their question.
Wonderful what you have written over there, and trying to shake the entire what we are not doing for last 1,000 years. That's excellent. So I would like to know what the future plans are there, how you are trying to do, and how do we carry forward the things what you have done over there. The books you have written, that's fine, but again, how do we spread it out?
So that's a good question. What's the future of our work? How do we want to spread it? So there's two kinds of ways to make an impact. One is policy, which is top down. You talk to the government people, and we're not in the government. We don't have any institutional authority, but they want to consult us, and they ask us questions, and we inform them. And there are a lot of people who are listening. So that's one kind of impact. The other is public. We spread awareness, and a whole lot of people are spreading developing these internet channels and YouTube channels and all that using our work. A lot of literary fests and manthans happen where people are writing books based on the last 20 years of the work we put out. So that's how we spread influence. But we have 4 tracks. We call them tracks A, B, C, and D. Track A is original research, like these 13 books are part of Track A, and I intend to write 20 more books, which will be part of Track A. Track B is we are mentoring young scholars. So, for example, this here, with 10 articles by different young scholars, is Track B, where we are training other people to write this work, and we're also doing conferences where we bring in other people to take on the same topics as us and give their views, and we encourage people to agree, disagree. It's very lively. You can come and present a paper which is contrarian to what we are saying. We welcome it. We like debate. We like controversy. We are not trying to push something down your throat. We have a provocative position based on a lot of our research, but you are welcome to come and criticize us and disagree. So track B is where the same knowledge is now transferred, is made wider and broader. More people come in and write their books and so on. Then comes track C. We're turning this into online courses, e-learning courses. We're working with some universities to produce some curriculum based on some of these courses. So in the next few years, we'll have a whole lot of courses on these books that you can take. Then track D is social media, public debate. We have very active presence in YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all that. And we meet a lot of people. We go around giving talks. I live in the US, so I'm here for a five-week visit in which we have 28 events. Like this one, there are 28 events. From here, I'm going to Pune, then Mumbai, then Hyderabad. We just went to IIT Kanpur. So going around, traveling, building up more, awareness and encouraging people to speak up, whichever way they do. We just like people not to be sleeping, but to engage in these issues. So that's track D. So track A is original work we do. Track B is we get other people involved through conferences and through these anthologies that we do. Track C is we make it very popular. We're making documentaries, e-learning courses, films. All this we're going to do. And track D is we take it to the social media and to the public through various mechanisms. That's how we are spreading this. You want to say something?
Yeah, you can also check out our YouTube site for Infinity Foundation, and also Rajiv Ji's Twitter account is at Rajiv Message, and then we have a Twitter account for Infinity Foundation as well.
Somebody has to give him the mic, not me.
Question here.
Okay, then
Hello?
please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir.
Go ahead.
What is your view of AI on society?
AI on society.
Yeah.
So that is what this whole book is about. The AI on society is economy, industry, education, and jobs. That is the first impact. Geopolitics and military. That's AI in society. How it affects your psychology, moronization of the masses, dumbs down people. That's number 3. And then the effect on artificially creating emotions and artificial gratification, escapism. That's a. And then battleground 5 is, does India, what is India's future? Can India survive the AI revolution, given that it is 10 years behind? So this is impact on society. That's what it's all about.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
There's one question there on the left-hand side of yours. Yeah.
Hello, Namaste. I have 2 questions. I am just wondering how these leftists and communists are so confident when they spread falsehood or talk negative, or like, doesn't their conscience allow, like, if there's like nothing happens to their conscience, like they just always spread negativity with so much confidence, and we are so gullible, just believe whatever they are saying. And this is my first question.
So let me answer that. I think I don't believe in left wing, right wing. I believe in logic, good arguments. I think that it's better to classify people as intelligent, open-minded people versus dumb people who are memorizing something and closed-minded and keep parroting one particular cabal that they're a member of. And that can be left-wing, right-wing person. I prefer dealing with the people who are open-minded, intelligent, critical thinking skills, and they can have any ideology. I don't care. Now, as far as the left-wing, right-wing dichotomy is concerned, people are entitled to their point of view. There are people who are convinced, like we in our tradition, we call it Siddhant. Siddhant means school of thought, theory of how you argue, theory of argumentation. And there are many Siddhants in our tradition, many Siddhants. They argue with each other. So in the Western Siddhant, in the Chinese Siddhant, in the Japanese Siddhant, there are Arab Siddhant, there are so many schools of thought. So people have a right to believe what they want to. We should not feel offended. The point is this, can we argue back? As long as they don't practice cancel culture. And that is what concerns me. Cancel culture means that I'm not allowed to speak. They will speak, name me, argue about me, do whatever, raise hell, and not allow me to come back. We have never practiced cancel culture. In all our activities, we invite our opponents, and if they come, they're welcome, we like it. If they don't come, it's up to them. But they don't invite us the same way. And I think what we need is not one side is right and the other side is wrong. Maybe a little bit of both sides are right, little bit of both sides are wrong. We need to learn from each other, and to do that, we need to have more dialogue, more debate, and rather than cancel culture. So that's how I look at this whole thing.
Okay. Now the other question is whenever concept of quantum physics is being taught in Indian universities, they will always give example of Alex and Bob. They will always try to relate anything which is not connected with India, or give anyone, like name any of their examples with Indian names. This is one thing. And I've also noticed all the premier, including the IITs, if you are fighting for the IITs, but IITs don't give a damn about the India. Like what is they do is their textbooks, the best professors, whenever you go and talk to them and ask them, like, I want to know more detail about this topic, they will say, oh, go and read the book from the professor of MIT or Harvard or whatever, Princeton. They will not even like give any importance to Indian authors or Indian writers, even though they might be very, very highly intelligent. So why are you giving so much importance to these IIT?
So we have, for our part, our foundation produced a 14 volume on history of Indian science and technology. 14 volume. It's available online. You can go to the bookstall and they may have a few of them, where we gave these projects for 3-4 years per book to a lot of IIT professors and BHU and various well-known places to produce this work on the Indian contributions to science and technology, which is considerable. Well, it's up to us to document this, to bring it out, and to teach it in universities. Indian contributions in botany are well known. Indian contributions in healing sciences, Indian contributions in mathematics and astronomy are very well known. In fact, Indian impact on Christianity is a very big theme. I'm developing a 3-volume on Hindu and Buddhist influences on Christianity. It's a 3-volume series I'm doing. Indian influence on mind sciences. A whole lot of these cognitive science, psychology, dialogical, all these cognitive behavior theory, CBT, all these DBT kind of stuff. A lot of it comes from Indian thought. So it's up to us, and it's not a one-man job. It's up to us to document this, to produce good books, to make them clear, and a book has to be peer-reviewed. We have to throw it open for people to criticize it and then keep improving it. It cannot be some like-minded people talking it to in an echo chamber, feeling very chauvinistic and proud and saying, okay, I understood it, and then expecting to teach it to people. That type of teaching will not work. So India needs to invest more in its traditional knowledge and then be able to put it into the curriculum. And this requires fighting a deep inferiority complex. Our babus and bureaucrats have a lot of inferiority complex. So we need to fight on multiple fronts, but the underlying problem you're mentioning is a valid problem.
Do we have any more questions?
Thank you, ma'am and sir. Whatever you're doing for our culture and society. My question is that, sir, in the world there are a lot of cultures. Why Westerns are going after our culture? What is interesting in our culture?
So it's not like, hey, we must be really good. We must be so good because the CBI is coming and raiding my house. I'm very special. No, it's not like that. The thing is, civilizations like to expand. Arabs want to expand. Even within Europe, France wants to expand more than England. China wants to expand. It's not like the West are the only people who want to expand. So it's like in competition, you like to convince people of your point of view. And when you expand, you have financial benefit. You get more territory. You get more people aligned with you. And you have good for economy, good for trade. So there is economic benefit. If your ideology expands, there is economic benefit. So these are natural instincts that people have. And so I would say it's not like there's something wrong with them. It's human nature. People like to expand. And so we just have to, it's like, how are we playing the game? What are we doing to make sure that we have a good shot at our market share? Once upon a time, we used to have it. So we can get back to it.
We'll take one last question.
Yes, over there.
Sir, anti-Semitism has cost and consequences in the West. But of recent, we see that there is a lot of institutional Hinduism which is getting promoted in the West. Do we see any kind of fight back against it?
So we coined the term Hindu phobia about 20 years ago to describe this whole thing about Hinduism as something horrible, negative, abusive, And so I've been writing one book after another. So today, you see, I'll tell you the difference between then and now. We haven't solved the problem, but we have an awareness. 20 years ago, Hindu temple would not invite me to talk on this because they said this is too controversial. Today, they're inviting me more than I can handle it, more than I can accept. So now you have every guru is on this bandwagon that we don't want to accept Hindu phobia. All the parents want to teach their children something proud. The youth are into this, like people like you, they're interested in this topic. So the opposing side has not stopped, but our side is waking up. And that is how we have to do it. Once you wake up and you are able to give a good, solid, response, then of course you level the playing field. That's how we have to do it. We should not expect that somehow the others will stop. We have to basically wake up and give a response from our own side.
Hello, thank you so much, sir, for wonderful talk. I have specific question for the youth who is present here. We generally attend these type of talks, and I've been listening to a lot of kathas from different scriptures on YouTube and personally as well. So I want to ask, what is your message for the youth that what they should do? Because I want to ask, like, what is personally I can get from this talk that I can do in my personal life from this talk?
So do you want to answer for the message for the youth? So depends on the age of the youth. You see, if you look at youth, let's say college youth, I think the college youth should invest a certain portion of their time and energy and resources to understanding things which are not job related, which are not like how do I make money and how do I get ahead and so on. Building their character, building their swadharma, and building, and a good thing is what in the West is called mind sciences, what we would call yoga, meditation, sadhana. These things will make you a smarter person, calmer person, more creative person. Our tradition is full of that. Our tradition has championed it, pioneered it all over the world. A good way to connect with our tradition is through these adhyatma vidya. We call it adhyatma vidya, the inner sciences. If a youth gets into that, they'll be better behaved, better conduct, better grades, better citizens. And then their eyes will open, their consciousness will open, the mind will expand. Then somebody may get interested in understanding science, traditional science. Somebody may get interested in understanding history or whatever it is. So I feel that the inner journey is a prerequisite to a good outer journey. If people have not gone in the inner journey first and they become activists, they'll become angry, violent, and somebody will get hold of them and channel their anger in the negative way. A lot of that is happening in the world. But all these people are so-called activists and fighting for human rights or whatever. If you really get to know them as individuals, they're very disturbed personally. They have no meditation practice. So this is where I think that our tradition is very strong, that you first build your character through these inner tapasya, the inner self-discipline. And when you are able to master yourself and become a more calm, relaxed person, you can play a very good role in society outwardly. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, I also want to add to that there are lots of things passed down from the family in terms of swadharma and practices. Those make your identity stronger, and once you have a strong identity, you're well grounded, and nobody can shake you and make you an activist. The problem is with activism is they're all about dismantling, whereas with sadhana, you're all about building and contributing. So to be a contributing member of society helps the society, but most of all, it helps the individual.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajiv ji and Vijaya ji. Thank you, audience, for coming to the event.